A gold scream floated off his king suit and shielded the wet metal locks of his hair to a closer screwed crop. Then it struck the snake's face like a pen, magically turning him to a burnished ember. "More violent than the real thing," he smiled. He stabbed the finger as the hovering scream, and it shot through the window like a knife, stretched into the sky, and aimed a golden message against the slates of grey. The wedding of King Ryan and Princess Sophie will take place as scheduled. Sophie dashed for the door, but it was still bothered by screams. She recoiled in horror, watching Japheth move towards her, his grin dark and unhinged. Agatha, help me." Sophie backed against a wall. The snake put his cold lips to his ear. "Ready for wedding?" She pounded him in the face and leaped for the spot, her hands finding the heat. But the eels were already coming. As they speared into her ears from both sides, her consciousness fading, the last thing she thought of was her best friend, the other half of her soul, the lion of her heart. Agatha, a grave mistake. Agatha dreamed of her own coffin. She was trapped inside, water filling it as she pounded and kicked it against steel walls, carved with strange symbols, her shoulders choked by the liquid coating her face. Tiny black and white swans floated past, the size of seahorses, obvious to her plight. A few seconds more and she was fully underwater, holding her breath and thrashing harder against her coffin. But now she felt a deep pain in her ears, and then something warm and thick leaking out into the water, turning it red. Blood. Agatha screamed out any air she had left. Around her, swans began to sink like stones. Agatha bashed at the walls, but she was losing consciousness, the coffin size closing in. She clawed at her own thumb, her last breath leaving, her face reflected in the murderous steel. Only it wasn't her reflection. It was Sophie's. Agatha threw herself awake. "Sophie!" she gasped, lunging through pitch dark. She hit her face on a hardwood beam and ricocheted backwards into more wooden beams arranged in a lattice around her like a cage, a bird cage. For a moment, she thought she was still dreaming. Then she looked through her cage at two other bird cages hooked to a thick blanket over a camel's rump, each case filled, Tedros and Guinevere in one, Hot and Nicola in the other. The camel teetered downhill in the moonlight, kicking up dust around gravestones. Sultan of Shazamba gives me gold. Tell me, bring camel across Savage Sea to King Ryan, said the camel's rider as the bird cages jostled, sending the prisoners tumbling. Wedding gifts for King. The rider looked back, a balding beaver with yellow-stained teeth. Extra wedding gifts now, he said, grinning at his prisoners. Extra gold for Ajabaju. That's when Agatha remembered everything. As her cage tossed her around, the face back under her arm, Agatha watched the Tedros prop as his cage bars with his finger glow, only to see his ghost spell burn out. Either the cages was seized with the magic of the wood was too tense to penetrate. Told you we should have gone through the steam forests. Horse closer to Nicola in their coupe. Farthest ways to Evelyn, and we wouldn't have gotten caught. Skirting the coastline was the safest plan, Nicola argued, her voice mastered by the camel's grist as Ajubaju smacked it with a snake. We were nearly to the Lady of the Lake. If we hadn't passed those docks just as the Shasamba ship came in. Or if Tetro's mother hadn't barreled the straight into the beaver, Hotz whispered. It was dark, Guinevere sighed. The camel drifted over a headstone, launching the old queen across her cage. Tetros caught her in his arms. She gloated at Hotz. You're looking for someone to blame. I'm looking for way out. Difference between a boy and a man. Hotz grumbled, glancing away. Tetros gripped at his pants, trying to snap them, his face wet, muscles swollen, battling his cage the way he once battled his father's sword in the stone. He felt that now as he did then. Agatha and her prince locked eyes through their cages. Tetros' father had given him a message, unbury me. Now they needed to follow that command and dig up the old king. Something is in the grave, Agatha thought. Something that could give them a chance against Ryan, even when all seemed lost. But after a full day of sneaking up the coast from Gromland, with only a few miles to go, that being snarled by Ajubaju, a goon for hire, who had nearly killed Agatha in Evelyn once before. Now with the beaver towing them back to Camelot, they were passing through a different gravesite altogether, the Garden of Good and Evil, where Evers and Nevers of the woods were buried. A glass coffin with a fair princess resting beside her prince rewarded rows of gold overhead, and Agatha glanced up to see Lance Ming's announcement of King Ryan and Sophie's wedding glowing against a star-filled sky. Residues of her dream fluttered in her chest, the black and white swans, the blood coming out of her ears, Sophie reflection as her own. Her soul was trying to tell her something. But what?